So go ahead and give me your name.
Hi, my name is Barbara Barry. I'm the Director of Learning for OLPC, focusing mainly on the Middle East. I'm part of the OLPC Foundation.
Okay, and what got you hooked on the OLPC XO experience?
Oh, I was hooked before I was born. No, I was hooked because in my academic work, I was part of the Media Lab that Nicholas founded. So the ideas about learning and constructionism and how computers can help people learn, challenge people when they're learning, how we can model people in machines, people as learners, has been something that I've been interested and worked on for a long time. So when OLPC came along, it was this way to think about how that might work kind of outside in the real world, not as a prototype. So, there are a lot of mistakes that we learned from, a lot of beautiful things that we discover that we didn't know would happen. So I was I was hooked before it started, but now I'm hooked even more actually, which I think is a good sign.
What were some of the beautiful things that you didn't even know would happen?
Oh my gosh, okay. Let's see. I think the way that children really took to and owned the machine from the first moment that they got it, that's really pretty powerful. I had a little bit of anxiety. You say you're going to go in and you're going to get every kid a computer, right? In a community, say there's 700 kids, right? Maybe there are some kids who wouldn't want it. Maybe there are some kids who would feel like, I can't have it because my parents don't want it. There was something about it that was really inviting for kids, I think. And that has to do with everything, the industrial design, the kinds of activities that are on the XO, and just this kind of way that it can electrify this whole community of kids and their parents to think together, learn together. It's sort of this glue, this little cohesion. You drop this green glue and everybody starts kind of joyfully talking together about things. And of course that's the kind of pretty glorified version of what happens. There are also problems, but then there's also some beauty in how people problem solve together.
And then, what are some of those problems, and talk about some of the places that you face those problems in?
Well, primarily my work has been in the Middle East, so working with UN agencies in the Gaza Strip, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, a little bit in Lebanon, and starting maybe a project in Syria. That one's just beginning. I don't know, it's hard for me to say problems because I find problems to be not problems, they're just kind of opportunities to solve things. So one thing that a lot of distributions talk about is, oh no, we have all this curriculum and we need to turn it into an e-learning tool, right? We need to turn it into e-learning materials. So that's a problem if they just say we're going to take all our textbooks and we're going to make PDFs and we're just going to put them on the XO and call it a day. Like, great, that might be better because kids can get all the textbooks and all the grades. That expands their materials for learning. But it's also this nice opportunity to say, what do you want that to be? Like that e-learning tool, now that you have a computer, can be anything that you want it to be. And to bring in different people like school counselors, teachers, developers, designers, education experts, to really think about how they can leap forward and not just do the next incremental thing. So, you can see that as a problem. Oh no, somebody wants to take the curriculum and just make it into a PDF and call it a day. But you can sort of ask them, wait a second, like stop and pause and think about what this could be beyond that. And I think that often works. I think people a lot of times just need permission to run with something, right?
There's a lot, just kind of this question off the top of my head, there's a lot of people think, education is sort of the way to peace in a lot of these places. In terms, having worked in the Gaza Strip, I got to imagine you have a unique perspective on that. So I'm wondering if, you have any ideas on that may not seem immediately obvious.
Well, there are a lot of people who are working on how to have children involved in the peace process, right? And when I say that, I don't mean the peace process is in meetings that are happening, in Washington or in Egypt. I mean meetings that are happening like among children, right? So one thing that's really, I think, useful is when children start to understand the experience of other children, right? If you're walled off from another community and you don't know what it's like, to be that person in their everyday life, it's hard to know that there are similarities, right? It's like you can amplify the differences instead of understanding the similarities. So I really think as a communication channel and as a way for kids to talk to one another, it can be productive, to extrapolate that to peace, everywhere in the world is just tough. But I think just understanding, people generally, like understanding as a human condition across those lines. Technology can play a role in that. It's not going to solve anything, but I think it can be kind of a channel and an opportunity maybe.
And then what was it that you want to talk about? What was your deepest, worst, lowest point, in this whole sort of
deepest, worst, lowest point
in this whole journey? And I'm sure there's only one.
It's really funny, but it's hard for me to think of one, to be honest. It really is. Like a deep, dark moment of fear and... I mean, there was one point where we didn't know if the laptops would actually be approved to enter Gaza, which would just be a tragedy, right? To be able to try to get a resource someplace and just say, no, they're not going to be able to go there. But it was approved. I mean, that was a thing that made me nervous. But, I have to say, I don't feel like there's any deep dark point of despair in my experience at OLPC or working with any country or any partner that we've had. I'll get back to you if there's one. I'll let you know.
Okay, cool. And then, what bit of wisdom that you specifically acquired would you like to be able to pass on?
Just listen to people. So we talk a lot about learning. Inherently in every human being, we all are learning every day, right? About one another. When we're kids, we learn how to walk. A lot of us have an education. Even if we don't, we're learning from the people around us, right? So when we go to do any kind of project that's, education, with asterisks around it, it's not about enacting what we think should happen, but it's about listening to what education means to people and then trying to make a program that honors all of that. I think that's how things persist and they scale, and they're, in a way, how can I put it, flexible, right? If they run into problems, people want to solve it because they're invested, because it's part of what they envision things to be. So I don't know if that's wisdom or not. That's just, listen to people. Right.
And then what would you like to...
This is more than 5 questions.
I know.
It's a trick.
See, this is why I usually try and separate everybody out, but you already know. But don't worry, this is the last one.
Okay.
It's only because you keep giving fantastic answers that I'm...
This is really nice.
Sort of usurping my position. So if you, right now you sort of have a platform to say anything you want to, bring in more community volunteers or whatever you'd like to say.
Oh, this is interesting.
So this is your soapbox.
My soapbox. So community involvement is fabulous, amazing, right? But there's something about people having a role that is meaningful to them and also contributes to the actual needs, right? So I think it's worth just OLPC as a community in general really understanding, we've talked a little bit about it here, what the needs of different distributions are, what the needs of kids are, and having kind of an experimental way to think about learning tools together, but to try to do that in a little bit more of an organized way, right? So I think everyone's had the experience where someone tries to help them and it's not the help you want, not the help you need, but you feel obligated to give that help. I think that the volunteer community there's so much intelligence and so much drive that I think there's a way that we could work together to have more an effect, down to the level of the kid using the laptop, how to get it all down there to that level. That's my soapbox thing.
Cool. Right. Excellent.
Thank you.